Hi, I'm Michelle. Welcome back to Michelle Lynn Reads. I thought I would do the Booktube newbie tag. Took the questions from, I don't know where this originally started. It's been shared and done throughout Booktube. I know I've watched new booktubers that way, and some of my friends were suggesting I do it. So let's go ahead and get into the questions. So first, why did you start this channel? So I started this channel, and you probably could tell by the title that I was my mother's caregiver for 5 years in my house, and probably since the pandemic started, 2020, that's kind of when I found Booktube and started watching it. And then when my mother passed away, I had just started really connecting with a few creators, and I've mentioned her on my other video, Krista at Books and Jams, joined her Patreon and got to know some people that way, and it really helped me to get my mind off things. I was dealing with some the typical things that you deal with when you lose a loved one. I was the executor of her estate, and like I said, I've been caregiving for a number of years, and honestly, after she passed away, I was definitely grieving. I was also really tired, and ended up, which I'll talk about in a question later, I ended up getting pretty sick myself and didn't have a lot of energy to do much. Reading is kind of what saved me, and having the connections with people in the Booktube community really was a lifeline for me, honestly. And as the questions go, I'll talk more about my reading and how I started reading and found a love of reading. Yeah, and so some of my friends suggested and encouraged me to start my own channel, and so here we are. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? So I think some fun and unique things is I don't typically read the popular books. I'm not going to read Fourth Wing or Iron Flame or whatever they're called. I've never read Harry Potter, and I don't plan to. Yeah, I like kind of an eclectic array of books, and so I hope that I can bring some books that maybe folks aren't talking about or aren't reading. I hope I can bring some of those to Booktube. And also, I work in disability services, and I'm also a person with a disability. And so I think I read a good bit of disability nonfiction, usually memoirs, but also history of disability rights in the US, which is where I am. And I also like to read fiction. I prefer own voices with disability representation, because I have found that when it's not own voices, I don't really connect to the story as much. Yeah, so I hope, as well, I can bring some disability representation to Booktube as well. Let's see. What are you most excited for about this new channel? Honestly, just a new project. Having a new project, I think, would be really helpful. My health is still kind of up and down, and making the connections that I've made through being a Patreon on a couple of channels, and also I comment on channels and I've met people that way. I have, friends that I now talk to on the daily basis that I've never met in person, but they're on the other side of the country or in a different country. And it's just really cool, the connections that can happen through this community. So, yeah, more connections is probably one of the things I'm most excited about. And then also more bookish conversations. I don't have a lot of friends in my life, in real life, that read to the extent and quote, honestly, obsession that I do. I love books, and I've tried a few in real life book clubs, and they just don't, they don't last for whatever reason, scheduling reasons, or, they kind of fizzle out for some reason or another. But my heat just turned on. You can hear that. Yeah, so the connections I think are huge for me. Next question is, why do you love reading? I think, I watched a number of booktubenewbie videos before I did this, because I'm a classic introvert. I'm very nervous about being on camera. It probably shows. And I'm going to echo a lot of what I saw for this, or heard for this question, why do you love reading? I love hearing different people's stories. I love the fictionalized part of history. I love hearing about parts of history that I haven't heard about before in a fictional setting. I love, like I said, memoirs. I love to read about other people's lives and what they've been through. My degree's in counseling, so that kind of connects, that I like knowing about other people. Yeah, and I can say that my love of reading definitely comes from my mom. She was a big reader. What book or series got you into reading? So way back, my sister is a professional ballet dancer, and she started when she was 3, and reading was my thing. I mean, I tried tap, I tried ballet, I tried gymnastics, I stuck with for a little bit, but reading, absolutely. And a lot of times, because we were driving around to the ballet studio or at ballet performances for my sister, I would bring a book, because that's what could get me through. This was way before smartphones and, YouTube and tablets. But the book series, so I remember reading Berenstain Bears when I was really little, and then went into the Babysitter Club books, and yeah, now confession, I love Anne of Green Gables, but I first saw the movies before I read the books, and I've actually never read the whole series all the way through. I know. But I love Anne of Green Gables as well. So, and I never read Chronicles of Narnia when I was little, but I've recently read I think 4 of the 6, and really enjoyed them. I want to get through the rest of them as well. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? So I think I've probably already asked the questions of my favorite booktubers, because I've been going back and forth with whether or not to start this channel, and I think the most common thing that they said to me was that the hardest thing is just starting, and to get started with it, and just do it and talk about books the way that you experience them, and the connections will come. And so those are the main things that I probably would ask, which I've already asked several of my favorite booktubers. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? So as I mentioned, I have a disability, and it impacts my energy levels and pain levels. And so I think one of the things is, first, getting started was hard. Anytime I get sick, any kind of cold or anything like that, that definitely impacts my energy levels. And so I wanted to start this channel in January. Just made sense to do that. But I got a cold and didn't have any energy to, actually sit down and make the videos. So I think getting on a schedule that works for me and works for my body will be the hardest thing. I'm filming this on a Monday on my lunch break, and I wanted to do it yesterday, but didn't have the energy. And so one of the things, and shout out to one of the Patreon, Booktube's Patreon that I subscribe to, is Hannah May. Hannah is probably, I don't know, 15, 20 years my junior, but I learn a lot from her and her living life with chronic illnesses, and what to expect from yourself, and how to manage it all. I work from home. I'm very thankful that I can work from home. I go to the office sometimes when I need to, but I also, that's first and foremost. I have to maintain my job, or the bills don't get paid. So, and then I think just being okay with what I can produce is something I've learned from Hannah as well, just watching her. And she's very open with her struggles with content creating, as well as writing and reading, while managing her chronic illnesses. And so, I've definitely learned a lot from her, and I think that that's probably something is going to be the biggest challenge for me. The next one is, when did you start reading? When did I not read? I mean, I remember my mom used to tell me books I liked when I was a baby. I know they read to us. My parents read to us when we were little, and I just don't ever remember not reading. There's definitely been some lulls in my life when I didn't read as much. During my undergrad degree, I majored in English, and so I read what I had to read, so I didn't really consider it reading for pleasure. And then another little tidbit about myself, I did run an animal rescue for about 5 years, and I had no time or brain space to read. I think I would read maybe, I don't know, 30 books a year, which for me is really low. I read 140 last year, and I didn't really feel like it was too much or too little. I'm not really that concerned with how many I read, but yeah, so there's definitely been some lulls in my reading life, but I think I've always been reading. Where do I read? Wherever. I do have a new reading chair. My dog hasn't really let me use it yet, but I am part of, for what I've experienced, part of grieving a person who has died that lived in your house is going through their things. And while it's been 2 years since my mom died, I haven't gotten rid of all of her stuff out of her bedroom, and so it's still kind of her bedroom. And so my goal this year is to set it up as a library. It has to also serve as a guest room. So I don't know, we'll see kind of how that comes about. What kind of books do you like to read? As I said before, I like to read kind of eclectic array of books. Probably most frequent is contemporary women's fiction and memoirs. I don't follow many of the book prizes. I do tend to like the books that are on the women's prize. I would say I probably like half of them, which I have a couple of them. Behind me up there is, you can't see, is like The Bandit Queens by Perini Schroff was one of my favorite books of last year. Alice Feeney is one of my favorite thriller writers. Nonfiction. Yeah, so I kind of read an array. Right now, this shelf that you can see, which these are in the process of, these shelves will soon be my already read, my books that I've read that I love and want to keep. Right now, this shelf is my animal related books. Because like I said, I did run a rescue for a number of years, and so there's a number of books that are training books and memoirs of books as well. So, and I also have 2 dogs and a cat. The cat's over there somewhere, that you may meet. You probably will meet in a video coming up. Yeah, so the last question is, what does your book collection look like? And right now, my book collection looks chaotic. This is a mix of read and non-read books right now. I have more books than bookshelves, if that sounds familiar to anyone else. And so like I said, I'm really working towards getting where my mom had her room, kind of getting some more bookshelves in there, and setting up a little library. And my goal would be that my to be read books would be in the library and / guest room, and my read books would be here. I don't really keep books unless can see myself rereading them, or I'm just blown away by the book. And yeah, so that's kind of what my library looks like. And as I get it set up, I will definitely give you all a sneak peek. And I also wanted to close, because that was all the questions on the Booktube newbie tag. I wanted to close with just a couple of shout outs to, I've mentioned Krista at Books and Jams, who is a friend, and she's been really supportive through all of this. Lindsay at Lindsay's Little Library has also been encouraging me, and I'll link everybody's channel below. Also, Jen Campbell, she has a channel that she focuses a lot on disability, and I've learned a lot from her. And also she does writing workshops, which are really cool, that I participated in, and has great book recommendations. For one of the series I love that she does is, if you like this book, you might like this book, or if you like this TV show, you might like this book. So I've gotten a lot of recommendations, and and Hannah, as I mentioned earlier, Hannah May. So I'll link all of those booktubers below, and I really appreciate you all being here. Take care.